table.
It is a perfect place, and we have joining us today Glen Downs, the former congressional chief of staff. We also have with us Tim Constantine, the host of the Capitol Hill Show, also a columnist at the Washington Times. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Great to be here.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so there's also this report of a secret meeting recently off the coast of Georgia. According to the Huffington Post, billionaires, tech CEOs, and top members of the Republican establishment flew to a private island off the coast of Georgia this past weekend for the American Enterprise Institute's annual World Forum. According to sources familiar with the secretive gathering, the guests included Tim Cook from Apple, Larry Page from Google, Mitch McConnell, Speaker Ryan, and many more. And apparently the highlight was Karl Rove giving this presentation about Donald Trump's greatest weaknesses. Voters don't think he's presidential. So we got all this negativity out there, Glenn, about Donald Trump. None of it seems to be working. Any way this slows him down tonight or in Florida?
Well, that's what we're about to find out. Listen, if you're down in Florida and you see what's, you get a good taste of the radio ads, what's on TV, it's just relentless. Huge amounts of money being poured into to stop Trump. And if we don't, if it's not effective, then and we'll know here in the next week or so, then it's going to be very difficult to stop Trump. But if it is effective, and you have, say, a Kasich can score in his home state of Ohio, then goodness gracious, you might find all this establishment money switching over from being against Trump and over towards a Kasich as the establishment tries to find a candidate that they like, that the general public will also rally around and vote for.
Well, there have also been some reports of a Kasich surge in Michigan, but what about Trump? Will tonight show that his momentum is slowing or that he's getting stronger ahead of the Sunshine State showdown next week? Tim, your thoughts?
Well, first let me say there's nothing I like better than a secret meeting. Although since we know where it was and who was there and when it happened and what they talked about, I'm not sure how secret it was, but it's no secret that the establishment is pretty freaked out about Trump. They're worried about him and they don't know what they're going to do. So your conversation is exactly correct. With Michigan and Mississippi tonight in particular, I don't see Trump losing. I saw the same polls you saw with a Kasich surge. I don't think he's going to win there. So Trump will claim at least a couple of more victories in Idaho and Hawaii. You know, the momentum continues. I'm not sure what slows that down as long as there's still four guys in the race. The one thing that makes a difference, and you may have seen the polls that came out today, they showed head-to-head polls, Trump versus Cruz. Cruz wins.
That's
Trump
interesting. Let's talk about Ted Cruz a little bit more. He has moved closer to Trump. There was all this talk about Marco Rubio all of a sudden. I don't know why so much, but Cruz really has been the guy that's been able to compete closer with Donald Trump than anybody else. And Cruz is now apparently making it more difficult for Marco Rubio in Florida. According to Politico, Cruz campaign is opening field offices. They are sending surrogates to stump in the Sunshine State. Also, they're going to spend millions of dollars on an ad buy. Cruz knows he can't win Florida. But does Ted Cruz doing well tonight, does that ensure that he's really going to parachute in there and try to make things tough for Marco Rubio, Glenn?
Well, listen, right now, when you take a look at the delegates actually scored heretofore, Ted Cruz is really not very far behind Trump. And the Cruz campaign has all along had it as part of their calculation to try to get it down to a two-man race, and that Cruz would be that other guy. And now the problem is with the establishment, while I think they are in many ways elements of the Wall Street crowd, for example, are much more comfortable with Ted Cruz than they might have you believe. The fact of the matter is the Republican establishment writ large, dislikes Ted Cruz for different reasons almost as much as they dislike Trump. So far, interestingly enough, all these vicious attacks against Trump, and some of it's just really is over the top.
Way over the top.
Yeah, whatever else you think about Trump, it's just over the top. But the beneficiary of that has not been their favored candidate heretofore, Marco Rubio. It's been really Ted Cruz.
Right.
Well, let's talk about Marco Rubio, though, because a recent Monmouth University poll shows him trailing Trump by 8 points, but that actually shows a rise for Rubio when compared to previous polls. There's also been a lot of rumors swirling around that even the Florida senator's own advisors don't see a pathway to victory for Rubio, something his communications director flat out denies. But regardless of what the numbers say or what his advisors may have said, Tim, what's the prognosis look like for Rubio heading into tonight and March 15th?
But it's not good. Only Rubio could spin, hey, I'm only behind by 8 points into a good story. You know, he was, hey, I came in third place in Iowa. Look, I did what you didn't expect. He's been spinning the negative, but that's kind of running out of runway here.
Yeah.
Glenn pointed out the race between, when you do the delegate count, between Trump and Cruz is much closer than the media would have you believe. I think this morning, as of this morning, it was 384 to 300. And then Rubio in a distant third place at 151. So that's a lot closer than people realize. The question comes down when you talk about Rubio in Florida. Does Cruz go into a mode of trying to knock Rubio out?
That's what we're waiting to see.
Give Trump, it's a winner-take-all state, so let Trump take all 99 delegates. Or is there a little bit of strategy in letting Rubio try to win and take 99 delegates, and you're still that much closer to Trump?
Last question for both of you guys. Yes or no answer. We only have 20 seconds left. Does Marco Rubio drop out before Florida Glen Downs?
No.
No. Tim?
No, but he should.
He should.
There you go.
Could be embarrassing for Marco Rubio unless things change.
Glen Downs, Tim Constantine, thanks so much for joining us today. Pleasure to have you. Coming up next, what lessons did we learn from the war in Iraq, and who's really America's ally? Former director of the NSA and the CIA, General Michael Hayden, gives us a revealing look into his new book, Playing on the Edge: American Intelligence in the Age of Terror. Plus, a reminder, stay tuned to Newsmax TV all night long. We'll be bringing you live results of the primaries and caucuses.